And welcome back to EH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and once again, we got spoilers from the new set, Ravnica, Murders at Karlov Manor. Checking out some new commanders. Let's get right to it. Starting out with Voja, Jaws of the Conclave. I don't know if people say Voja or Voja. I don't know. Either way, whatever. 2 red, green, and a white. Legendary creature, wolf, 5/5. So this, I believe, is the wolf from the, I believe, the original Tolsimir that created the token, right? So 5/5 vigilance, trample, ward 3 is pretty darn good. When Voja, Jaws of the Conclave attacks, put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. X counters, wow. Where X is the number of elves you control. Draw a card for each wolf you control. Weird. Okay. Wow, those are both really good abilities. Depending on, of course, what you have in play. So they are encouraging you to do, I'll just say this, okay? They're encouraging you to do both wolf and elf tribal here. Like, I would absolutely probably just make a wolf deck with this. I wouldn't put any elves in here at all. I don't think it's worth it. I mean, if you can, I'm quite certain that in Naya colors, you'll be able to fill this deck with enough wolves. Like, there's enough wolf tribal support here. I don't think it's worth it to put elves in the deck, although putting X +1 counters on each creature you control is nice, but drawing a card for each wolf you control is probably way better. And, you know, putting counters on your creatures, over on effects, all that kind of stuff's already easy to do. You're in an aggro-y theme, you know, like when I'm really moving towards with my deck building is don't just do more of the same thing that you're already doing. Again, that's why the Panharmonic on effects and the roaming throne and all that is just overkill for me. You're already in an aggro theme, right? And yeah, making your commander a 7/7 or a 10/10 is nice, but you're already doing a lot of attacking. It's way better for your deck, in my opinion, to be drawing lots of cards rather than putting a bunch of counters on your creatures. What I would do is just do Wolf Tribal with this. I mean, obviously there's a million better elf commanders. There might be a little bit of overlap. Like, you could put a Wood Elves in here, which of course is an elf. You need ramp anyway, so why not put that in? So, or a Farhaven elf, there you go. So you could throw a couple in here and they'll just incidentally put counters on your creatures. And obviously your commander is going to be a wolf, so you're going to be, draw a card for each, yeah, you're going to be drawing a card guaranteed whenever your commander attacks, right? Yeah. I would more concentrate on the wolf tribal here and just have incidental elves in your deck, and then maybe Maskwood Nexus later in the game, so that, of course, and I guess you could throw changelings in the deck as well, because changelings will do the elf thing and the wolf thing. You're not going to build a whole deck with changelings, I don't think, but you definitely could put a few in here to trigger both of those. I wouldn't load the deck up with elves, though, just the ones that actually work, like maybe the mana dorks and stuff. All right, speaking of which, we got Tolsimir Midnight's Light here. So 2 green, white, elf scout, 3/2, lifelink. When Tolsimir Midnight's Light enters the battlefield, create Voja Fenstalkers. So there it is, right? A legendary 5/5 green and white wolf creature token with trample. Whenever a wolf you control attacks, if Tolsimir attacked this combat, target creature an opponent controls blocks that wolf this combat if able. That's interesting. Whenever a wolf, so again, we're doing the wolf tribal thing. 2 wolf tribal commanders in the same set. Okay, if Tolsimir attacked this combat, obviously you want your wolf and your commander to be attacking, right? Target creature an opponent controls blocks that wolf this combat at available. So you're just doing a, you know, a lure effect here with your wolf, which is interesting. You can use it as removal. That's okay. I mean, it's very, you're in green and white colors, so the fact that you can do that is okay. You can build around it a little bit. I wonder if there's any wolves out there, because of course it can be the token or it can be anything else. It's a nice little added bonus, I guess, to be able to, because again, you're getting in for damage anyway, and then also you can force a block, which is going to, of course, well, I mean, likely kill the creature. I don't know why else you would force a block. You could get into a little bit of shenanigans. Like you could get into, are there any wolves out there that have abilities that they want to be blocked? I don't know. That obviously would be a good fit here. Again, you can do the changeling thing, obviously. Target creature opponent controls blocks that wolf this combat if able. Yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit you can do there. You're in white, so it's not like creature removal is going to be a problem. It's a neat little thing. You can do, yeah, like there is some, like infiltrator lens, right? There's some, if this creature becomes blocked, that you can do, which obviously, again, we've seen quite a bit in the format. So there's not a whole lot of, the forced blocks thing. Man, I think there's even a couple of commanders that are doing that already. I mean, obviously there's nothing new going on here. And man, if you want to do the wolf tribal thing, the Voja that we just looked at is way better. Not only do you have red, which is a really good color to have if you're doing wolf tribal, but everything about that commander is way better. So I have a feeling this one's going to get probably buried. All right, moving on. Judith Carnage, connoisseur. And I had some guy in the comments on my last video say, man, I can't wait for you to look at the new Judith. So here we are looking at the new Judith. Haven't seen it yet. 3 black and a red. Human Shaman 3/4. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell. So we're in Spellslinger theme here, and Rakdos, don't see that much. You choose one. That spell gains Death Touch and Lifelink. Wow. Or create a 2/2 red imp creature token with, whenever this creature dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Those are both great abilities for sure. Of course, the Death Touch and the Lifelink one that's super interesting. I think that's probably, I mean, creating the token that when it dies, does 2 damage to each opponent, that's great. I mean, they're both great. And obviously, the Death Touch and the Lifelink are meaningless unless you have damage dealt. So how you're going to build this deck, obviously you're going to put the damage dealers in here, like a Lightning Bolt, for example. So I Lightning Bolt, and essentially your Lightning Bolt just becomes kill any creature. It just becomes creature removal, assuming that creature's not, indestructible or has regenerate. And then also you gain 3 life. That's great. That's just fantastic value. And then I guess the second ability would be any removal spell or any instant sorcery spell you cast that isn't damage based, right? So if I cast my Blasphemous Act, obviously you're going to gain a gazillion life there. So you're going to choose the Death Touch and the Lifelink, right? That's how you're going to build this deck. And then any other instant sorcery, like say I cast a Stinging Study, right? Stinging Study because I want to draw 5 cards off my commander. That's an instant sorcery. It's going to trigger your commander. You're not going to pick Death Touch and Lifelink for that, right? So you're going to pick the Imp. Make the Imp token that deals. So it's just fantastic value, right? Either way, it's going to be great for you. So that is some really nice payoff. And in fact, man, I mean, other than Niv Mizzet, because of course that guy's busted. Other than Niv Mizzet, this is one of the best Spellslinger commanders I've seen because those are both fantastic payoff. Really fantastic payoff. And you'll be gaining so much life in this deck that you could easily do the life gain theme here really easily. I mean, gaining life's always good, but Well Lost Dreams is going to be a great card draw option in this deck without a question. As I say all the time, if you're gaining life in a deck, Well Lost Dreams is going to be one of your best options for drawing cards. So yeah, and the other added bonus here is you can pay life very easily too. That's another, like if you're in a life gain deck in black, it's very easy to throw any, like a Necropotence or something, right? For example, it's very easy to throw those cards in because you have tons of life. I cast a Blasphemous Act and then I can Necropotence for like 30 or something, right? Very easily. This is going to be a popular one for sure. I assume that's why that person wanted me to look at it. This is definitely going to be a really popular one. I mean, Spellslinger, I don't know if we've ever had a straight up Rakdos Spellslinger commander. This might be the first. Regardless of any other scenario, though, this is going to be a popular commander for sure. People are going to go after this one, absolutely. All right, let's take a look at Kylock's Visionary Inventor, 5 blue and a red. That is an expensive commander. Vyashino Artificer, 4/4. And as I say all the time, if I have a really expensive commander, which 7 is, it has to be a commander that I don't need it to be in play, where some setup can be required, right? So 4/4 Menace, Ward 2, and Haste. And Ward 2 is nice on my commander, but, if it's a remove on sight commander and I got a Swords to Plowshares in my hand, I'm just going to leave up 3 mana instead of leaving up 1 mana, just saying. Whenever Kylock's Visionary Inventor attacks, I assume this is going to be a really powerful ability, obviously, right? Sacrifice any number of other creatures. We're sacrificing creatures, and is it? Okay, we had a... This is kind of funny. We had a Rakdos Spellslinger commander, and now we have an Is It Sacrifice commander. So we're reversing the color combinations here. So whenever this guy attacks, you're going to sacrifice any number of other creatures, then exile the top X cards of your library, where X is their total power. And I'm guessing you're going to cast them without paying their mana cost, because again, this is an expensive commander. You may cast any number of instants and or only instants and sorceries. Okay, so we are in the Spellslinger theme still, from among the exiled cards without paying their mana cost. So, yeah, pretty much called that one. And so there's a bunch to talk about here. First of all, I don't know if I love this, okay? This is a commander where there's a whole bunch of setup that could happen. Like you could just spend the first 5 or 6 turns just putting lots of token creatures, just filling the board, right? That being said, if someone casts, people know what's coming. They can see what's in the command zone, and they're going to be like, okay, this guy's got 12 goblin tokens in play. He's going to cast the top 12 cards of his library. Total power, yeah. So if it was 12 1/1 goblins, I will say, though, there are a lot of other ways. Like what would work great here is those, those red spells that create like an elemental token that actually has a pretty big power. It gets exiled on the end step, but who cares? You're going to sacrifice it anyway. Those cards would probably work great here. Oh, your commander has haste, so you don't even need haste enablers. So yeah, you can immediately have your commander come down and attack. But again, this is one of those commanders where you're going to have this really big play that your opponents are going to see coming, and they can leave up 3 mana for their Swords to Plowshares, or they can just do a board wipe before you get to 7 mana so that you don't actually get the payoff. So I don't love it. This seems like not a super great build around. The payoff could be okay. It could be, you can get an expropriate or, something like that. You could. I would imagine a lot of people will do the Narset thing here, where they will, although I will say it will be difficult, right? But you could do the extra turns, extra combats here with this very easily. But the extra combats don't work good because you have to sacrifice creatures in order to get this ability. You can't just keep, it's not like with Narset where you can just keep doing it. The extra turns will work, of course. And if you could cast like 2 or 3 extra turns, I think extra turns is definitely the route people are going to go here, because again, you have to make it worth it. All that setup, putting all those tokens into play, hoping your opponents don't have a board wipe. Finally, you get your commander down, you attack, you sacrifice 8 goblin tokens or whatever, and then you want to get a couple extra, you really want to make it worth your while. And then maybe if you get a couple extra turn spells in there, you can recast some, create X token stuff and then repeat the process. So we might see a lot of people building this deck like a Narset deck, where you just, once you get your commander out, you just go and go and go and go. That's definitely a way. You're casting from exile, so I will point out that a Passionate Archaeologist or any of those effects also would work. And again, that could be a win con in the deck. That could be, if I have my Passionate Archaeologist down and I just go nuts here, it could just be I close out the game. Feels like a very Narset situation where my commander comes down, I cast a bunch of extra turn spells, shoot my opponents for a bunch of damage with all those cast from exile effects. Isn't there what's the Nalfashni or whatever that copies something you cast from exile, I think? So yeah, you could very easily just go, as soon as my commander comes down, the game is over, but that requires a lot of setup. So do you want to go down that route? I wouldn't. I don't like the decks like that. That's definitely not my style. Some people might like it though. All right, lastly today, Izoni, center of the web. So we got another Izoni, 4 black and a green. So is that more? The last one cost 6 as well, I believe. And of course, a detective this time, elf detective, 5/4 menace. Everyone has become a detective in this set. Whenever Izoni, center of the web, enters the battlefield or attacks, you may collect evidence 4. If you do, create 2 2/1 black and green spider creature tokens with menace and reach. And what does collect evidence 4 mean? I gotta look it up, of course. Just gotta say, I don't love when I have to look up what a card does. It should say on the card, especially in a new set with a new mechanic. Again, commanders are so wordy now, but when you have a new mechanic on a commander that no one's ever seen before, you really have to have that reminder text. All right, I've looked up this card, Extract a Confession, 1 and a black sorcery as an additional cost. To cast this spell, you may collect evidence 6. So, collect evidence means exile cards with total mana value 6 or greater from your graveyard. That's it. That's it. Exile cards with total mana value. So, in this case, with our Izoni, it's going to be exile cards with total mana value 4 or greater from your graveyard, right? Total mana value 4 or greater. So, technically, you could exile your entire graveyard if you wanted to. If you do, create 2/2/1 black and green spider creature tokens with menace and reach. Okay. So your commander enters the battlefield, and we're just analyzing the first ability here. So your commander enters the battlefield or attacks. So let's say it enters the battlefield. I exile total mana value 4 or greater and create 2/2/1 black and green spider creature tokens with menace and reach. Okay. So we're in spider tribal here, maybe. But we have this other ability, sacrifice 4 tokens, surveil 2, then draw 2 cards, you gain 2 life. Oh my goodness. There is so much going on here. I mean, just think about the amount of things going on here, first of all, okay? I mean, your commander has an ETB, so you could put a Conjurer's Closet in here, right? You could do that. You're exiling cards from your graveyard. That's already something that you can build around. You're creating tokens. That's something you can build around. So you can put a doubling season or parallel lives in this deck. You are making spider tokens, and of course, you're in the red colors, so you could very easily put spider tribal stuff in this deck. You are surveilling, so you can very easily put surveil stuff in this deck. What are we up to here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm up to 5 things that we're doing in this deck. You know, things you can build around. Drawing 2 cards. I mean, that's drawing 2 cards. Although I will say, even in black, there are cards that want you to draw your second card each turn, which you can very easily slot into this deck. And I believe they are recursion options. And seeing as how you're doing a graveyard strategy here, those are pretty good options in this deck as well. So we're up to 6 now, and you're gaining life. Okay, so we're up to 7. So again, easily put a Well of Lost Dreams in this deck, because whenever you sacrifice 4 tokens, you'll pay 2 mana and draw 4 cards now, right? And I haven't touched on the most significant part here, which is sacrifice 4 tokens. That's the most important build around here. Obviously, your commander is creating, a slam dunk in this deck is Tormod. Absolute slam dunk here, right? Obviously. So is the what's the crypt or whatever that creates the bat tokens, the original Tormod, right? The one that creates the back tokens. Both slam dunks in this deck, obviously, because as you exile cards from your graveyard, I mean, it's 1 or more, but it is going to give you the tokens. I mean, you would already put, even with just the first ability, any evidence stuff, which is going to be exiling from graveyards. If there's another evidence commander, again, you're going to want that bat crypt and the Tormod and all that in there, because it's just giving you free value. But of course, they're creating tokens, so it's playing into the last ability there. And in fact, you could really go nuts if you had your Tormod and the other guy in play. Now, every time I mean, not every time, but you could very easily collect evidence for, because you can exile as much as you want, as long as you keep filling your graveyard. I have got a really full graveyard because it's very easy to do that, self-milling and whatnot in Golgari colors, right? I can just go off here, can't I? Because every time I have to attack with my commander, right? So it's not like I can just keep doing it over and over. I have to have my commander ETB or attack, but very easily every turn I can do this. But just think about all the, what was that? 7 things, 8 things that you're doing in this deck. Man, and with all of the support we have for all these various themes. Again, this is why I'm talking about parallel lives. Are you even going to find, I don't know if I would find room for a parallel lives in this deck, although it is really, really good. Again, even with the Tormod, now every time you use that ability, you're guaranteed to get the 4 tokens you need. So yeah, I guess we should put that in there. Should we put those second draw guys in there? They seem pretty good because you are surveilling. Should I put any surveil tribal stuff in here? That seems pretty good, right? Like you're doing so much here, combined with all of the doubling effects, all the auto includes in the format, all the space. Whew, man, you're going to have a hard time finding room to put all the stuff you want in this deck. Now, that being said, let's glass half full here, all right? You could see that as an upside, because now every time I face an Izoni deck, maybe I got a guy who's doing more the surveil theme. Maybe I got a guy who's doing more the life gain thing. Maybe I got a guy doing, the exile from my graveyard. The decks are going to be different. So that is Sort of an upside, I guess. I will say, though, 6 mana is kind of a lot, and this does, well, I guess you could very easily just sit there cranking out tokens for the first however many turns. So that is, again, this is very similar to the other guy, the Is It guy, where if I just have a bunch of tokens lying around, man, they really need to. You know what? They should be reprinting parallel lives in this set. We've already seen a bunch of token commanders. There's a bunch of clue commanders as well, which I guess is a token commander. I said this back in C21, way back towards the beginning of my channel when C21 came out. I was like, "Where's the parallel lives?" That was a huge themed token set, and I was like, "What a perfect set to reprint parallel lives!" Which, of course, they just refused to reprint that card. It's going to be even in more demand now, and this is the set that you need to reprint that card in. Come on, Wizards of the Coast, don't let me down. Reprint that card. It's not a card that I have. It's not a card that I want. It's not a card that I would put in any of my decks, but it's a card that is really good in so many decks that's super expensive because they refuse to reprint it. Here's another deck where it's going to be great. Anyway, this is an expensive commander, so just like the Is It guy, cranking out all those tokens so that as soon as my commander comes down, oh, here comes the Swords of Plowshares because I have a really powerful commander. In response, because at least I want to get something out of it, in response, I sacrifice 4 tokens and surveil, draw, gain life. And then hopefully I have 4 more that I can do it again. I mean, your commander has an ETB, but they can respond with removal before the ETB resolves. So you won't get the spider tokens till after. So it would be nice to have, like, say, 8 tokens, and any token will do. Treasure tokens, clue tokens, any token, right? Creature tokens, anything. Awakening Zone is an auto-include in this deck, I think. So having 8 tokens in play that I can immediately, so when I cast my commander, if it gets removed right away, I will surveil 4, draw 4 cards, gain 4 life. That seems like pretty good value for 6 mana. At least that's worth it. Right. And then also the ETB will resolve as well. And I got a couple spider tokens. So this is going to be a popular one, I think. There's so much going on here. And sometimes, like, I'm starting to wonder now, I'm getting it wrong with commanders a lot. And I'm starting to wonder, like, I'll just bring up Carmen. I'm going to bring up Carmen in a video coming up from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. I was like, oh man, that commander is going to be the most popular one from the set for sure. Not even close. It's shocking. I don't get it, right? I'm at the point now where maybe it's because these commanders are doing so much and there's so much text on them, and we get so many commanders that guessing at which commanders is going to be popular is impossible. Carmen, I thought, would be really popular, maybe because it's doing so much. I don't know. Izoni might be a case where, man, this could be really popular, or maybe not at all, because, it's doing a lot and people don't know how to, what directions they should go in. I don't know. It's a crapshoot at this point. All right, there you go. 5 new commanders from Ravnica, Murders at Karlov Manor. We're getting some interesting ones for sure. We're getting some powerful ones for sure. I think I'll do a couple more of these. Sometimes I'm feeling it and I'm doing lots of spoilers with all the commanders coming out. We're already getting lots of commanders coming out. So there's a lot to talk about. I think I'll just keep on doing it because we are getting some interesting ones for sure. You guys let me know what you think of these new commanders in the comments below. That is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.